I cover everywhere from Austin Rockets and then Christie and
On the free lunch, on the activity and the sack lunch, if they're on a free lunch program, which they should be in this situation, pretty easily, the lunch would be free, and maybe just you did it anyway.
I just put simply wine exclamation on that one. It's $10. I was just gonna set to wine on that
Yeah.
one. Just say we can't.
It would be a $5.
Johnny's looking forward to it.
I just figured I'd cut it in half by getting the free lunch and then pay the activity.
I would go talk to the school and I would say, I do not want my child to miss this, but
Right.
this month.
The school can't let your child miss it if you can't. So it's our obligation as a school to pay.
Oh, that's good to know. I wouldn't pay them $5 either then.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
To kind of fill things out, so.
Right. Okay, the next question is, how could you manage your money to make things work better for you? And I think we kind of touched on that with going down the list. And you mentioned, we mentioned the electric bill, we could use community assistance. Haley mentioned the other churches have community dinners. We can get a list of community places that are feeding at the housing resource. They have a list of the churches that provide a meal every night. There's at least a church that provides a meal.
Well, the kids definitely, but I think still for the adult as well. I think at $8.50 an hour,
I think so.
I really think that you would qualify for free Apple Health insurance.
Yeah, I could argue this one. Was this form? What's form?
Yes, 4 is how could you manage your money to make things work better for you? This works.
Well, sure there is, like for the gift for the birthday party, instead of buying something, come up with something homemade that is fun and cute, or a free coupon for a fun day at your house, or, I don't know, you could.
Two things. I had a really good family friend. She was invited to my daughter's birthday when they were younger, and they didn't have a lot of money. So she gave herself a $5 limit. And she went to the Dollar Tree, and she bought a blue coffee mug and two or three items that would fit in that mug. And I think she put hot chocolate in there, like a packet of hot chocolate and something else, and this blue mug. And we still have the blue mug to this day. And she had a gift bag at home that she recycled, and that was Kendra's. And after Kendra opened it, Kendra was just excited that she got this gift. And that family friend came up to me and goes, Kelly, I'm really sorry it wasn't a lot more, but we don't have a lot of money. And I said, Kendra loves it. And even several years, the blue mug, and through high school it sat on her dresser and she used it for other things.
And how could you make life better for yourself and your family?
So prioritizing obviously is the key here.
Prioritizing is critical, but even if I prioritized, I still couldn't cover the basic needs.
Well, you would cut out a lot of this. So maybe figure out
What you can cut out.
what you can cut out, how you can eliminate some of these and reduce the monthly cost. Like your electricity bill a month, $250. That's outrageous.
That's what mine is.
Really? A month?
That's really high.
It is, it's really ridiculous how high it is.
I would say a lot of, we all mentioned it, look if you could find something at a less expensive rate, like, thrift stores. And there's a number of stores of that nature. And government commodities, food banks, so the
I think bartering, like, a lot of this, some of this stuff, if you barter.
Share, like babysitting, share that.
Like maybe if you know somebody that has money that needs childcare, or that, can you carpool with anybody?
Yeah, they can't.
Alright, is everybody back in your moments now? One last chance to talk. How did you feel about the exercise? How did having so little funds for all of those bills make you feel? Was it awful?
Challenged.
I know when I played it the other day, I felt really frustrated.
Powerless.
Exactly.
So some of the things that, the reason why we did this is just so you get an idea of
what it's like for some of the people that you're gonna be working with that are in poverty every single month, it's like this. And sometimes they have even less money than this. So, not only how they felt, but when you feel those things, how they act out. So a lot of them are angry, because I see somebody did write helpless. And so hopeless, when you feel like that, and then you have to go and ask for services, you know, and most of the time you expect them. I know that I talked to someone today and they're like, well, I didn't even ask them because I thought they were gonna say no. And, you know, that's sad.
It's a pride thing also, Michelle.
It is.
They don't want anybody to know that they're in crisis.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't, it's a pride thing for some of them. Some
That's
of them
true.
have their hand out and it's just, that's what that's what they've known. But a lot of times, they don't want other people to know that they are in that situation.
Right? Right, that's a good point. So then, how did people prioritize?
What did you guys find in your groups? What were the things that were prioritized? Why did you prioritize that?
Well, in our group, we said, you know, rent and utilities, but for me, I always, as an adult, chose rent and utilities because there was many times where we were evicted and there's no power, and that will never happen to me as an adult.
Right.
It will never
Right,
happen.
and that's what happens, that is the same thing that happens for people in poverty, especially when we're talking about generational poverty.
And a long, long time with food also. You would find way too much food in my house for a long time, and just within the last 2 to 5 years, I'm able to say, I don't need to buy chili today, I have 2 cans.
Right.
But before I might have 10,
Right.
because there was many days where there was no food.
Right, right.
Me? Yeah. Just hygiene, you know, people can say we might not have much, but we're clean.
Right.
You know, where
Right.
our clothes are clean, we're clean, you know, we might have the latest designer or whatever, but hygiene, making sure that we were able to be at least the same as everybody else.
Right, right, and you have to remember, you can't tell by looking at people. A lot of times, especially if you live, my grandparents were farmers. And if you look at them, you might think, oh, they're just poor people. But no, they were farmers, you know, and that's how they dressed for work.
Yes.
You know, so.
Many of the richest bloggers that made millions still wore their cutoffs. Because that's how
Exactly.
but they have more money than the state of Washington sometimes. you know.
Yes, that's true, you can't tell by looking.
I have a father that's very well-to-do, doesn't live in this state, very well-to-do. He looks like me. You never know he had $1 or $2. Just really simple.
Comfortable.
Really simple.
Right.
Right.
You never know it. He doesn't know that he's rich.
Right, and there are people like that too,
Well,
who don't know.
I'll figure it out someday. Yeah.
So,
I have friends.
What did you guys find that you skipped over, that you didn't put any money towards?
Cable TV.
that is true, the cable TV, bang, was empty.
Empty.
But you know, to some people though, here's the problem. If you're dealing with people in poverty, a lot of times they won't pay something else because they need TV. Because that's their only source of entertainment, they don't go anywhere, they just watch TV, and that's the babysitter. You can save a lot of money
That's true.
by just turning on the television.
And so true for senior citizens. Like my dad, he upgraded his cable so he could have more sports channels. Because because football is his life.
Exactly.
And he could watch sports TV all day.
Exactly,
Right,
and that's
so
how
he didn't
cable
want to
companies
Right.
get, you know, basic cable isn't enough anymore.
Right.
Because the show I watch now is a paid premium channel.
So he would rather go without, but he wanted his cable TV.
So on that communication to us, the certain demographic here that we're talking about, if you send a letter home, that's not going to make an impact as a DVD that they can plug into their DVD player, even though they don't have cable. they probably have a DVD player. And when they're tired of whatever shows are on the free channel so they can pick up with the antenna, they probably will watch that DVD no matter how boring it is.
I think another thing that a lot of families are paying for too that isn't on this list is internet, because they can have internet with $7 Netflix, and that $7 Netflix is the babysitter for the kid for the whole night. So that's one more expense that wasn't on this list that you would have to think about, a $60, $70 bill for that.
Well, and if you're on free and reduced, I think Comcast gives it to you for like $9, or at least they used to.
Right, and what happens with those kind of things, it's just like the $8 telephone.
Oh, is it just a
What
basic?
happens is it's the basic,
Basic?
and they always talk them into.
Oh,
I've seen it
that's
over
too
and over.
bad.
They talk them into
Oh, I didn't know that.
upgrading, and then it
Then they're
becomes a
stuck.
bill that gets disconnected and then.
Early on, once I figured that out early on, you know, in my early 20s, was like, I have the power to say no. And so those people, you know, they get on to talk you up and upgrade you.
Right, some people never learn that.
That is true.
I had
Some people never learn that.
I moved out and I got all of these cable packages from Comcast. I was like, this is incredible. And then I got my bill and I was like, oh my God.
This isn't incredible.
I was like, this is $200 a month. And I called my dad and I was like, what do I do? He's like, cancel it. I was like, but I can do that? He was like, you don't have to have all these things. He's like, what do you actually watch? I was like, well, I really just need internet because of school. He's like, why did you sign up for all this? I was like, well, I don't know. I was on the phone and then they made it sound really good. And so
They're very good at that.
they can get trapped into it.
That's how they get paid.
Right?
Sure, no, I'm serious.
That's
They
why
don't-
they're successful at their job.
When they don't upsell you, they don't get paid very much.
I think one of the things that our group
I don't mean
talked
it means
about
it's true.
that was
It's
way
just how
bigger
they-
than cable TV is that on this income, why would somebody be paying $900 a month for insurance? There should be state assistance all over.
Exactly. And the difference is, this game, when it was done, that wasn't available. And we did do some research today and look at, it is available. There's a couple ifs. If your job doesn't offer it, then.
Right.
But if your job does offer it, you have to, I think, take theirs first before you opt out.
Somebody actually said, well, we just wouldn't do it, but now with the Obamacare, you have to have insurance.
You do.
Right, I know several people who didn't, and now they couldn't afford it at work and they didn't qualify. And they had to pay $6.95.
Which is cheap compared to
Taxes.
$900 a month.
$900. Right.
Because you make the choice to
Right.
So, and my tax lady told me that I couldn't, as a spouse, I couldn't do the state insurance, that if my husband's employer offered.
Right, I have the same.
something, yeah.
I have where I have to take my insurance. I have to sign a bunch of paperwork that I opt out because I take my husband's insurance. So they're really paying attention to who has insurance and who doesn't.
Another thing we looked at is food assistance. On this income, you actually qualify for between $450 and $500 a month in food assistance.
Oh,
I get that. Yeah, so that would go
Oh, I want my 185 back.
So
Now she can buy toilet paper.
I can buy toilet paper now.
So Pat, you spent $185 on food. How much, what were you gonna do with the rest of your month?
I paid my rent and utilities, because.
Right, but not your money. If you only paid $180, what were you gonna eat all month? What was your plan?
I was gonna go to the dollar store.
And food bank.
And the food bank, probably, to be honest with you.
How many people went to the food
Free
bank
meals
and paid
possible.
less for food?
Yep, and WIC.
Yeah,
So knowing that you could get between $450 and $500 for your family of 3, would you spend any money towards groceries, or would you exclusively use your food assistance?
I think I'd do that and still do the food bank.
Well, it depends.
Well, I think
You
that
can't
people
eat cheese.
do that, and the other
cheese
thing
for
is,
5 nights, 30 days.
a lot of times at the beginning of the
Yeah,
month,
that's not
when people
fair,
first
but-
get their food stamps, they aren't budgeting like this.
No,
They first
they're
get their
not.
food stamps, they're going out and they're buying things that are easy to cook, or some of them don't even know how to cook.
Right.
And they're buying things that are expensive, and they buy them, and people who are homeless, they buy stuff every day that they don't have to cook, or that they
Or
can
carry.
Or carry, so, and it's usually expensive and things that are not very nutritional.
One
And
thing we've
so their
seen
money goes fast.
in our food bank out at Jackson Prairie is that we are usually a little bit long on supplies the first couple of weeks of the month.
Right.
Because people are buying.
Right.
But when you get to those last couple of weeks of the month, it's a pretty big deal. And so I've kind of started telling people, you know, even though you've got food, come and get it, so you've got more toward the end, because a lot
Right.
of times the selection is pretty picked over. It's really good at the beginning of the month. And they're actually, several have listened, you know, and they're coming and getting it, even though they don't need it now, they're looking ahead a little bit as to where they can.
Right.
Because it's much busier. We'll do 70, 80, 90 families at the end of the last 2 weeks of the month.
Right.
But we're only doing 40 and 50 the first 2 weeks of the
So
month.
how often can they go to your food bank?
Every single week.
Nice. I know a lot of the food banks, and that's what I found, is that they are, you can go there one time a month. A lot, and so it's good to know that there are some that you can go.
And most times they
more
can
often.
plan on going out of there with 2 banana boxes of groceries every week.
Yeah, and then when it's Tuesday, there's nothing left.
Oh, no,
Nice,
it's,
they give it all away.
yeah, it's empty on Monday afternoon and it's full on Monday morning.
Yeah.
And the main food bank in Thurston actually has a baby day every couple months or so. So it's all geared towards baby items. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That is nice.
That's nice. So, see, the other thing about this is we have a lot of people who do a lot of things. And that's what people in poverty, that's what they know. They know. And this person will tell this person, and
Yeah.
this person will tell that person. Just like we were talking earlier about the parenting classes, if other people tell you. And that's one of the things that I find when people are calling me, if someone told them something, even if it was incorrect, they still will, no, so-and-so said to me.
Another thing that, a family that we had living with us for a while, it was my first awareness of the community within our community. And like you said, that networking and that living one meal to the next meal to the next meal, day to day, getting $2 of gas to get them. I mean, that's just, they didn't look ahead, they didn't think ahead, like Bill was saying, getting them to plan ahead.
Because you're living in the moment, trying to survive today.
So one of the things they would do is they would hit up the one stops and the gas stations that had delis at the end of the day when they're cleaning their deli stuff out. And whatever, you know, they were just gonna throw it in the garbage.
Sometimes they give it away,
So they would
sometimes
just-
they give it to you for half price. Unless you're my store, then they still charge you full price. 3 days later.
How many of you guys chose to pay for car insurance?
I know a lot of
gonna
So-
quite a few people did.
But I moved it to liability only.
Those of you who did not
Oh,
pay,
so that's why it was short.
those of you who didn't pay for car insurance, what was your plan? Were you taking other modes of transportation?
Drive
Were you-
without insurance.
Were you
without
taking a chance of not getting pulled over?
Those guys are always hitting me.
We prioritize transportation so that, based upon some of our conversations on Saturday, I think, we could keep our job and then not dig a hole deeper, which we all know because we sat and talked about it, others might not, but that was why I think
And
we
you
all.
can have liability only because
Okay.
in your
Exactly.
workshop, there is no car payment there, so you don't have a finance vehicle. So
Right.
that means you own your vehicle.
But that might be, that car insurance might be your liability only because you have an SR 22.
I know what that is.
Well,
What
mine
is it?
was
That's
just-
our 20.
What is that? It's a special insurance, it's a higher rate of insurance because you got a DUI
Oh,
or something of that sort.
Or you're
That would be
trying to
changed
get
if she's drinking.
Yeah, she's got
yeah.
insurance, you might have to pay a little bit more.
She might be in
That's
that
right, she was
situation.
drinking.
Yeah, 'cause she's been
Did you got something?
Well, I did partial payments, and I didn't think about it at first. I thought I had to do full payments, and when I got up there, I thought, I wonder if I paid a partial payment, if they cancel it, or the fact that I made a little bit, they wouldn't, and I didn't know, and I felt scared, but I felt so excited that I could give my kids things because of that, and so it felt good to take risks to spread it out more.
I think, what I found was, if you call the company you wanna make a partial payment with before it's due, and just explain your situation, and they might give you a grace period.
Right, but some places don't. Like,
Right.
if you pay a partial payment to City Light,
Right, no.
when it's time to disconnect, I know someone who misread their bill and paid $1 short.
Oh, no.
And they charged a $50 fee and disconnected, and they're like, how did this happen? And then they're, you know, that's that hole.
Or things like years ago, I forgot to pay on time one month in Centralia, so I paid on time. And then several years later, I went to move, and I had to pay a deposit for the new place, and they doubled it. Because I had one.
So that's a
like-
good example of the kind of thing that can happen because of that. My son just got internet and the bill comes to me, I think, I don't know where it goes. But they called me on the phone and said it was 1 day late. And I said, oh, no, I was all panicked for him. And it was 3 days till his payday. And I said to them, what's the late fee? Because I was gonna pay it for him. And they said, oh, we don't charge late fees. And I thought, yes, you're gonna be late every month.
And we talked about in our group, the city of Chehalis, there's no mercy.
Right.
They do 20% is the late fee if you don't pay it on the due date. And then if you don't pay it beyond the date, they will shut you off. And that happened to me
You talk
personally.
about water, is that what that is?
Water,
It's
water.
huge.
No
I can't
mercy.
believe how big the water bill is in Chehalis.
Yes, and they have a
outrageous.
base rate.
Base
It
rate.
is really super high, and I don't know what it is. We have water someplace, and if we turn, that we don't go to, maybe once a year, and if we have it turned off, they charge $1,000 to reconnect. 'Cause
Yep.
you know, a lot
Yeah.
of people will, a lot of people will not pay it, and, cause they don't go there. So it'll be like a second house, and you don't go there, so they don't pay it, and instead of paying the base rate every single month. Yeah, so water, and a lot of those things you can't do anything about.
For those of you who chose to not pay your water on this too, the cities are working too with, I used to work for code compliance. It's actually not legal for you to live in a residence
That's right.
if it doesn't have potable water.
Right.
So if your water gets shut off, you will actually get a notice and your house will be posted that you can't live in your house.
Right.
Yes, and that happens a lot, and,
Does that not happen with electricity as well?
well, see, here's what happens, City of Centralia. You pay your water and lights to the same company. So if you get your electricity shut off within, I think it's 10 days, is it 10 days? Within 10 days, it is, they turn off your water, and then you will get a notice, because another thing, they consider it camping then, and it's illegal to camp. And so the one good thing about that, yes, and this is what happens, that is why you will hear a lot of people, if you start working with people who are coming for assistance, that some of the grants don't allow the agencies to pay utilities, but people who live in Centralia, there's a waiver from the state that doesn't allow this because of just that.
Wow.
And a lot of people think, oh, they say things like, this mother would say, I have children. They use that as an excuse, but I have kids.
Doesn't matter.
Nobody cares.
Nope. City of Chehalis doesn't. I had an 8-month-old child when it happened to me. I underpaid my water bill by $5.
Oh, man.
Yep, shut off. Came home that day after 5 o'clock.
Oh.
It was gonna cost like, I don't know, $50 for them to come and rehook it up because it was after hours, and then you have to pay the late fee on top of it. Yeah.
We used to see a lot of people when I worked in code compliance who we would send unoccupiable home letters to, that would call and say, my water got shut off because I was 2 months behind, City of Chehalis wants X hundreds of dollars now to turn it back on. So on top of owing their 2 months past, plus their late fees, they now owe this huge amount. They're like, I can't afford this.
Nope. Well, a lot of times they're even homeowners. You know, so it isn't,
Well,
What happens to people who are evicted? Can they rent anything out? Once you've got that on your record that you've been evicted?
did anybody not pay the rent? It is hard, it is hard to find a place. The problem in our county right now is it's really hard to find any affordable housing for people in these situations. Without, if you have a rental, there are so many people trying to rent that they're gonna first pick somebody with no evictions, good credit,
A job.
good job, a
And,
job.
and if you have a felony on your record, that you've now cleared that all up and you are making better choices, good luck finding a place to live.
Right, it's hard, and that's why we have so many people who are doubled up, who are living under bridges.
And all these people have kids that got aces.
Yeah.
So I want to tell our story that Liz and I live across the street from each other as homeowners, and my neighbor died 2 years ago. The house went to the bank, and this past week, lady drove by, said, is that house available? I said, the bank owns it. The next day she's moving in with her sister and their 4 children. And then they turned their own water on, the city turned it off. They called the police say, the bank said they'd come and take care of it, but that can take a year. So I basically was so grateful for coming to here because I'm so conflicted on how do I respond. It's like, okay, I figured out already that they're probably in poverty or they wouldn't be in this situation. They're
Exactly.
living in another foreclosed home. She did tell me in my first meeting with her that we can't find any place that we can afford to live.
Right,
But
and I'm
these
hearing that
questions
more and
about
more.
how do we respond as neighbors, and how do we help them? Do we try to get them out? And
You might talk to them, because some places, I've often wondered this, I recently have ran into 2 different people who, that's their story, they moved into a house that, one of them had lived across the street, so they knew the house was in foreclosure. They knew no one had been there in a year or so. They contacted the bank to see the status of it, you know, acting like they were gonna buy it, and they somehow turned on the power and the utilities were in their name. And they've lived there for quite a while. It surprises me, but they needed some help with utilities, so they contacted us. But I am surprised that there are a lot of people, because I know myself, I would be scared every single day that someone was gonna come, but a lot of times, no one notices. The neighbors don't notice. The neighbors don't know. They're like, oh, look, someone bought that house.
Well, these guys in the second day, for the first 3 nights, is during the night by the light of their cell phone, truckloads of stuff.
Exactly.
The trailer, the house is full. This is the biggest house in Mossy Rock, the biggest yard. And this is, you know, they were saying that they were leasing it, but then the police were involved. We now know that they were not leasing it.
Right, I always wonder how.
And if the bank doesn't send, the bank said we'll send our people, but that takes a year, the police officer says, up to a year sometimes, and.
Yeah, this one lady said that the bank knew she was there and they had been there.
So they're basically squatting.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I
Basically
Googled it, and it was like 14 steps in how to squat in foreclosed homes.
Right.
Join a squatting community, squat, it's another way to do it.
How do they get any sleep at all?
You guys, I can save $950, $750 if I squat.
Better pay the internet bill so you can keep on Googling how to squat.
That's better.
How to manage and make it better, squat.
Yeah, so as much as this sounds like a joke, this is actually a huge thing that we're facing in Lewis County. Not so much as squatting in homes, but people who have properties that are not developed, people will move their camper onto with their family. they'll reside in their camper full-time. They'll say, I have permission from my aunt's brother's kids to live here.
Yeah.
They can't legally live there, but you can't legally evict them if they say that they have permission. So then it goes into this whole legal battle, and you aren't allowed to live on the underdeveloped property. Also, along with that, if you know someone who lives outside of city limits, who's having issues, who's low income with their septic system that might need repaired, or with their well that needs repaired, Department of Agriculture runs a program that offers grants and very low to no interest loans to get low income individuals assistance with water and septic systems. I'll send out that link in an email tomorrow. But that, when I worked in code enforcement, we used that a lot for families that were very low income, who lived in kind of low quality properties that had failing septic systems, because you can't live on a property if your septic is failing either, but didn't have the money to repair it. They were able to go get these very low interest loans through Department of Agriculture at a reduced interest rate. Some of them were just grants that they wouldn't even have to pay back, and then they were able to fix the issue and continue living in that home.
Yeah, some of them are no payments and you pay when you sell.
Yep.
One of the things that we discussed in our group was, maybe taking in a roommate to help
Right.
do some of that, but I didn't think about it when we were discussing it, but now that we've talked about some of this, other situations, one of the hardest things to do is once a roommate comes in, you decide you don't like their habits, you don't like you can't get rid of them.
Right, that's true. That's true, and our coworker, when we played this game, that's what she said, was I'm gonna get a roommate. But she also got the one where somebody gambled $60. So that's what you get for getting a roommate.
Yeah. So there were a couple ones with kids on here. There was your child's invited to a friend's party and you need a birthday gift. There's the field trip. There's shoes for your kids, and then there's snacks because it's your kids' week for snacks at school. What did you prioritize? Did you give money to go to the kids' activities? Did you choose not to? If you were not, how were you explaining that to your child?
Improvise with a positive spin, that's what we put on there.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
And I think you're just open and honest with them, you just say, you have this amount of money, you have all these choices, you're able to do two. Which two would you like to do?
We did most of them, I think, in our group, but we figured out different ways to do them. Like, if all the schools have to pay if they can't afford the field trip, so we got that paid for. We rescheduled the treats to another month, so we did not do it, we just figured out different ways.
Right.
We made the.
And that's what
birthday
happens
gifts, we
when
went
you're
to
in
the dollar
poverty.
store.
You
Right.
figure out different ways to do everything that you need to do. So being very resourceful. And that's what you'll find when you're working with these people. See, what's the last one? How could you make how could you manage your money to make things work better for you? We've kind of talked about a lot of those things.
A lot of those are going to be tapping into community resources and using the network around you to see what's available.
I like this one, to barter.
What was that?
To barter.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people barter,
Right.
find your talent.
You
Well,
watch
I
your
know,
kid
that's
go
why everybody has tattoos.
I find that way. This girl that I've known for 10 years that I'm friends with, she does hair professionally. She also just happened to get a puppy, and she works really long hours. I dog sit her puppy because I'm off at 5 and she works until 9, so I dog sit her puppy in the afternoons. She does my hair for free.
Yeah.
One of our priorities was to find lower rent, because we felt like that was too much. We couldn't afford every month to pay that portion.
Yeah,
If
and
we
so
could.
here's what's really sad in Lewis County. That would be a cheap rent.
Yes,
And
and
not
that
in
would
a
be
very
really
good
cheap.
place.
Yeah, not a very good place.
But the problem with moving is that you have to then find a deposit. You have to find the first month, last month, security
Right.
deposit.
Exactly.
And so you have to
Unless
find-
you're moving in with someone else.
Yeah.
Right, and
A
you're
lot of
double
people
that.
just have to move home.
You can also take into the consideration too, your profile says that you have 2 kids. So with this rent, are you gonna find a lower rent and are you gonna fit everyone in a 1-bedroom? Or how are you going to downsize for that?
And I have some of my families that are living in hotels and motels,
One room.
one room.
Yeah.
And they got the cable, so the cable's taken care of, and they got a microwave, and so they can eat they can live and eat They can, live very cheaply
It's pretty
on that.
expensive.
Yeah,
It-
even
it can be
$30
pretty
motel
expensive.
room is $1,200,
Well,
$900 a month.
I'm just saying that, but if you can't find a place because of your felony record and
right.
that kind of thing, there's the Motel 6 and.
$1,200 a month with no utilities.
No utilities.
No utilities, no cable bill?
No cable bill, no
No
utilities.
cable bill, and you can eat pretty cheap.
Especially in Lewis County, those affordable places that are open to taking places, or taking individuals that have felony pass, taking individuals that are sex offenders and all of that. There's an extensive waiting list to even get into those.
Yeah, I've noticed even, go ahead Kelly, you had your hand up.
Well, I was just gonna say, we helped a family last year in our program that was homeless, that was frequenting Motel 6, and they got to the end of the month, and he had a job like up in the Maytown area, and so the wife would drive him up there, and towards the end of the month, if there was a 5th week in the pay period, then they could stay in the hotel a little bit longer. If there wasn't, then they had to sleep in their car for 2 or 3
Right.
nights. And they had kids. And then at Thanksgiving, we had a resource where we were giving out Thanksgiving totes, and they asked for one, but we modified it because in the hotel room, how do you cook a turkey?
Exactly.
So they were told what would come in the tote originally, and they accepted the items that they could use in a hotel room.
Right.
One of the things that I've noticed too is, a lot of previous conviction people that have been out of prison, that kind of stuff. There's a ton of little trailer house courts around, and they're paying $300 to $500 just for a place to put a camper.
Space rent.
Slip.
Right,
Right.
space rent.
Right, I just was talking to someone, although it
It's
is in
ridiculous.
Seattle, and they have a condo that they own, and it's totally paid for, and they told me the space rent, that the condo fees was $1,600 a month, and I'm going,
But an apartment will be over like $2,500.
right, where they
It's
are, but still, I was thinking, what if you have, I know there are places where you rent to own a mobile home, a manufactured home, and it seems like a good deal until you put in, you also have to pay for the space rent. Even once you own that, you have to continue. And what happens as the price goes up? Because some of those places, I know there was a place that it started out $185 years ago for your space rent. That same place is now $585. So what do you do in a situation like that? You think you have a solution, then you have to bring in, 3 more people to live in one bedroom.
So then going forward, what were your plans to make your life better for you and your family?
Well, we talked about staying in school and getting an education, high school education. And if you could possibly go on to college with grants and, or vocational.
Go to budgeting classes.
I think it's really important, one of the things that we put down is you've got to have somebody to help you, because the people that we're talking about I don't know that I could even navigate a grant application to go back to college or something like that. I think you need somebody, a mentor or something that's going to be able to help you with that.
The FAFSA application is really hard.
It is. It's very hard. And they just changed the deadline.
Yeah,
just
coming from
recently.
someone who says, I have a ton of parent support, and I get overwhelmed with FAFSA, so I can't even imagine trying to navigate it as someone who doesn't have a mom and dad on the other end of the phone that will answer my call at 1 a.m. when I'm crying over my FAFSA. Also, FAFSA did just change their deadline to November 1st. I know about this because I got a nice little email from my financial aid director. What about those kids that don't have access to email who are in school, that now are gonna miss that deadline? Yeah, they moved it up.
So how recently did you get that email?
Last week?
Yeah, it just
One
was.
30 days notice.
Yeah.
Is this the same or different?
They emailed it out last week.
They're the same, they're
Oh, okay,
two-sided.
They got changed to November
Someone else
1st.
read it?
That's how much.
I know.
Yeah. It was just recently changed.
So I'm passing out another budget.
Are you taking money away from me, Michelle, before I
No,
start?
no, no. This is how far from poverty are you?
Oh,
And this, I am not gonna ask
I'll
you
tell you
about
right now,
this.
one
This
picture.
homework is for you only. This is for you to look at and you to fill it out. And then think about the questions on the back. You know, and there's a scenario on the back. If a natural disaster were to hit your town around the time you lose your job,
Yeah.
how many months worth of savings do you have set aside to support your family through the lack of work or additional expense? You know, and it has some questions on the back, but this is just so that you think about yourself and your family and really, how far are you? Because they say, you know, most people are a paycheck or two away from being in that situation. And,
On the spin movie, that's one of the things that I noticed about that
Yeah.
they said, is you're just one paycheck away from where they are.
Did you watch it? Was it fascinating?
It
It was. It kept cutting out though, it kept skipping.
It does that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was assigned to watch it for school, and I was like, oh no, another school documentary they're gonna make me watch. And then I got 15 minutes into it, and I was like glued to the screen. I was texting my mom. I was like, Mommy, go watch this. It's like it's a good one.
did everybody get these, one of these?
Yeah, and with the natural disaster, we have a friend that works for FEMA, and she just went to Louisiana, and all you get is $25,000. That's it. Chuck, I mean, the government will write it out, and it's a natural disaster, so your home insurance will not pay for it. So you have to rebuild your house, your belongings on $25,000.
An act of God.
An act of God.
That's what they call it, an act of God. And insurance
It's a good
does
reason
not
not to
pay.
live.
Your homeowners will not pay. It's an
Homeowners
act
will
of
not
God.
pay. Happens
So
in
think
Pacific
about your
County.
house, $25,000 will not rebuild your house.
So then a couple more things before we close up. I was the one who sent that nice little email with all the links in it. Is there anything you guys want more information on? Because I can send another one of those out tomorrow if you need more information on different, anything that you can think of. I know on Saturday there were a lot of questions that wanted answers, which is why I compiled that email. So I just wanted to see if there was anything you wanted extensive information on tomorrow before we move forward.
And also, to Katie, now, since she sent that out, you now have her email. So if you're one of those tech savvy people who know how to upload some of the pictures that you've taken as you've gone about, you know, either to your office or other offices, and taken pictures of just the lobby and signs that you see around, if you would email those to Katie, that would be great, because we'll look at some of those next week.
That signage that we talked about on Saturday, if you have the ability to email it. It doesn't have to be your agency too.
It can be anywhere you go.
Yeah, anywhere
Like,
you go that you
You could
see
take a picture of
signage,
this.
whether it's welcoming or not welcoming, email
That's
it
not
over my way,
welcoming.
we're gonna analyze it next week.
If you
And
spill
talk about
cider
how,
in the fridge,
yes,
that's
how
not welcoming.
signage and environments can be welcoming versus not welcoming, and the difference that can make. Also, if you have any information that you'll want on 211, email it over my way. It doesn't have to be your agency, it can be an agency that you know about, preferably. The more information you can give me, the better, so I don't have to go and hunt it down and potentially get wrong information. Contact information for the program manager or coordinator is the most helpful thing as well.
And the thing that people have brought up here, Katie, is that there are a lot of things that aren't on there. The food, some of the food banks aren't on there, like the church ones.
Yeah.
Some of, and parenting classes
Are not on there.
are not on there.
there.
So,
And you talked
That's
about
good to know.
signage, you know, when we went on our field trip to the gospel mission, I don't know if you guys were aware of all the finger pointing and the fingers that were on the signage around the gospel mission. To me, it was not a very welcoming. And then it said you can do this, this, and this to get a bus pass if you did this, this, and this, and this. If you, I don't know, it was just, that was just me.
We'll talk about that more next week as well. You'll find a lot of places have negative signage when you step back and think about it.